understand what's wrong. You're enchained by your own sorrow. In your eyes, there is no hope for tomorrow.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Randy's Wellness TV here on Toronto TV. I'm your host, Randy Rowett. Pleased to be here with you on this nice fall-autumn day here in November. And we have a special guest with us today, and that's Debra Cockerton, and she's with the provincial coordinator, of course, with the Red Cross in Ontario here. How are you, Debra?
I'm fine, thank you, Randy.
Nice to have you here. And we talk about wellness, we talk about health as we feature here on this program. And one of the main things that people fail to realize is mental health and physical health also has a lot to do with violence prevention. Violence prevention, abuse prevention, harassment, all those things, right?
Certainly does.
Yes, and of course that plays a big role in health as well. So we like to explore these various options. So tell us, how did you get involved with this Respect Ed program with the Red Cross?
Well, I think I'd have to say that Respect Ed, the Violence and Abuse Prevention Program, has been part of what I've been doing for many years.
Yes.
I'm coming up to year 30, and I have been involved in both counseling and abuse prevention with children and youth in various settings. And 3 years ago, I came on board with Red Cross to continue the work.
And how did you get involved with this type of work? Like, where did you study for that type of field?
I went to school in Kingston, Ontario. It was a behavioral science technology program, basically behavior management. And my first job actually was with the City of Calgary at an assessment and receiving center. And in that facility, we looked at children that were being brought into care that were there quite often for reasons
Yes.
of neglect and abuse. And we did recreational programming as well as counseling as they moved on to foster home and back home to their own families with support.
Yes, it's a tragic situation when you hear of children who are sometimes for bad reasons, sometimes for unfortunate circumstances, they get separated from their parents.
Yes.
And therefore it's very vital to get a foster home, and you want to make sure that there's a right match and there's no potential for abuse or any type of other situations. So there's been some tragic stories in the news recently, as there is often, about these cases, and that's one good thing about the Red Cross. How does the Red Cross, what's the concept? How does that work?
Well, Red Cross really looks at trying to break the cycle of violence through education,
Okay.
both to youth themselves as well as adults who work and come in contact with youth. So that's the main focus of the Respect Ed program. And when we look at Red Cross and Respect Ed, the Red Cross program is looking at being part of the mission statement of Canadian Red Cross, so looking at helping the most vulnerable by using the power of humanity, both in Canada and around the world. And when we look at children and youth who are being abused, whether
Yes.
it's sexual abuse, neglect, emotional abuse, physical abuse, they certainly fit under that umbrella as being vulnerable population, and that was one of the growing forces in Red Cross making this a national program.
A national program of quite significance, and in addition to that, I should focus on the fact that the Red Cross is involved with so many countries throughout the world, so many programs. How many?
Definitely are.
Yes.
Almost every country has either a Red Cross or Red Crescent program.
Okay.
And when we look at disasters that are happening throughout the world, Red Cross can be there to offer assistance.
And they offer assistance for a variety of reasons, not just logistical, but also humanitarian benefits, and provide direct relief assistance for many people in trouble due to natural or other type of disasters.
Definitely,
Yes.
definitely.
So can you tell us a little bit about what is Respect Ed, or Respect Education, Respect Ed?
Respect Ed, it's a violence and abuse prevention program, and we have workshops both for youth and adults on the issues of violence and abuse prevention.
And that's a key topic in today's world anyway, violence and abuse prevention. We hear tragic stories of violence, youth attacking youths, or adults attacking children. We go back to some of the various stories that have occurred in the news recently. People even attacking each other at parties, at Halloweens, at nightclubs, Halloween with children getting robbed. So it's a terrible thing. So you want to target that. So what's the best way to target it?
I think through education, so people know, particularly in areas of child abuse and bullying and harassment and dating relationships, knowing what constitutes abuse, being able to put the language to that, and knowing where they can go for help and how to help a friend.
A key point of problems is bullying, and that happens in the schoolyards, of course, and other places. Now, this is typically 12 years old and maybe over.
I think bullying can happen even starting at an earlier age.
Okay.
Looking at young children even seeing the power imbalance and using that to get what they want, and that in itself can be reinforcing, and therefore they are setting up a pattern of behavior that they can carry through to their middle childhood as well as into adulthood.
So some of that is learned behaviors.
Yes, it can be.
And it involves things like children may affect others by ignoring them or isolating them. Something
Yes,
like that.
we call that social bullying.
Okay.
And actually females tend to do more social bullying than males, although females are getting right up there now with some of the same aspects of physical use of force in bullying. And then of course there's also cyberbullying, which is more or less verbal bullying on the internet level.
And that's another risk factor out there, isn't it? That's happening more and more, growing.
Definitely.
In the area, that's right, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have all this going on, all these programs, all this prevention. But why is the Red Cross involved with that? What's the main focus of the Red Cross in this?
Well, I think the main focus of the Respect Ed program is to get the education out there, to build up the knowledge of the youth, and to build up the knowledge of the adults that are working with youth as well. We have, since 1984, been delivering abuse prevention programs and have reached over 1.5 million youth and adults since that time.
1.5 million youth and adults. And where?
Well, if we look at our chart here,
okay, we have a chart,
up on our
here we are.
right-hand corner,
yes.
We have 550 communities in Canada where the Respect Ed program is being delivered in every province as well as the territories.
Right, so that's quite an extensive program and growing.
Yes, it's growing all the time. It's been in Ontario for the last 5 years, and we constantly have new communities coming on board to be able to train educators and get the word out.
Now, what are some of the violence situations or examples that you hear of in the Red Cross in terms of community?
Well, I think if you pick up a newspaper any day of the week,
yes,
you will see examples of child abuse. You will see examples of bullying and harassment, not only at the youth level, but also going into the adult level as well. And I think that is a good indicator of what's going on in the community, but it's very much like an iceberg. What makes the papers is only the tip of the iceberg, and what's actually happening in the schoolyards in the community is much more prevalent.
I think that what has happened is that we now have a new awareness of this type of difficulty that's happening. And years ago there was not this awareness. Through each decade there's been a different focus, awareness level. And I remember in the 60s a common thing that occurred in schools, for instance, was the using the strap on students. Now I personally witnessed that, and the difficulty with that is sometimes the wrong person can be the recipient of that terrible disciplinary action.
Yes, and luckily through legislation, children are now protected. The most recent legislation also put under the umbrella emotional abuse, and specifically looking at the emotional abuse that occurs to children and youth in families where they are witnessing violence.
And it's really sometimes a hidden situation. School teachers, other classmates, other parents, educators may not know that this abuse is taking place.
That's correct. And part of what we do with our education is help adults understand what some of the behavioral indicators are of abuse, so they are more attuned to be on the lookout for possible situations where abuse might be happening.
So with that, are teachers and Board of Education being educated in this program?
They definitely are. In one school board district, we come in at the beginning of every school year and we do in-service training on prevention in motion around child abuse to the brand new teachers. So they are aware of what to do when a child discloses to them.
How long has this program been around?
Since 1984. It started on the West Coast and gradually worked its way across Canada. And as I mentioned before, it's been in Ontario for about 5 or 6 years, and it's still growing.
And I can honestly say, folks, out there that I'm participating in this program now because I'm really happy that it's out there for the violence prevention aspect in the community. And I have signed up for a course. It's called Hearing the Hurt, Changing the Future. And this is a series of 13 courses, and that leads to certification as a violence prevention educator. A very vital topic in our community today to go out there and make a difference and impact.
Definitely.
And it has basic roots in crime prevention as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what other type of workshops does the Respect Ed program deliver?
Well, we have youth workshops that we deliver usually in a classroom setting. And one is called It's Not Your Fault.
Okay,
and
let's hold that up for our camera here.
Yes.
Yep. It's Not Your Fault. And tell us about that one.
It's Not Your Fault is a workshop where we go into a classroom and talk to youth about the issues of child abuse.
Okay.
And we help them identify what the different types of abuse are. And we talk to them about the physical aspects of abuse, what neglect is, sexual abuse, both contact and non-contact. We talk to them about emotional abuse. And we are able to help them understand why abuse happens. And we talk to them as well about the Geneva Convention on the Rights of the Child.
Right. Yes.
And the most important thing that I think we discuss with them is how to get help for themselves or a friend, because we certainly recognize at that over 12 peer group that quite often they're sharing that information with their friends, and their friends receive this information and then they don't know what to do with it, but they know their friend's in trouble. So part of what we do in this workshop is be able to identify local community resources that youth can access, such as Children's Aid Society, the police, some local counseling centers, Kids Help Phone, that they are able to contact and receive help.
And the title, It's Not Your Fault. A lot of children or youth will take it upon themselves to say, I must have done something wrong. Maybe I've deserved this. When in case this is not true. It's reactions of other people illegitimately and criminally in most cases.
That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
And we really want the children and youth to understand that it is never their fault and it is not their decision to make. It is the adults who are in their lives that are doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Okay. Now let's talk about some of the other programs. You have a few more there, I see.
Another workshop that we have for youth is What's Love Got to Do with It?
Right.
And it is a healthy dating relationship workshop.
There's our pamphlet.
And
What's Love Got to Do with It? Yeah.
And it explains the difference between healthy and abusive relationships, so the youth can understand and have knowledge about what the red flags are, for example, in an abusive relationship. Have them understand how certain behaviors can also be criminal, and have them have the knowledge as well about where to get help in their own community.
And dating is an important issue too, because dating, a lot of people, they learn behaviors when they're young and they pass these on to future spouses or children. And so, what's love got to do with it? Well, dating abuse is a real common thing in society now, isn't it?
It certainly is. And when we look at family violence situations, sometimes children and youth in their early dating relationships are actually patterning the behavior on what they're learning about adult relationships on the home front. And sometimes that's negative.
Yes, and they may not even know that they're exhibiting that behavior.
That's right.
Yes. Now you have Prevention in Motion.
Prevention in Motion is the adult professional workshop that we have.
Okay.
And this is the manual that is part of the workshop. It covers many things. We look at being able to educate the adult that's working with the children and youth on all the issues of child abuse. We look at behavioral indicators. We look at the impact on the children and youth at different ages and stages of development. We also look at the policies and procedures of their organization and how they deal with disclosures. We make sure that they understand the disclosure procedure, how to support the child or youth who is disclosing without asking questions that might taint an investigation that CAS or the police may follow up on. So how to get the information from the child, how to take down that information and document it, and what to do and say when they contact CAS or the police about what they've heard from the child.
And of course, reporting and the proper use of reporting and getting the authorities involved is key.
Yes, if someone even suspects that a child is being abused or has the potential of being abused, then legislation says that they must report that to CAS, Children's Aid Society.
Okay. And Beyond the Hurt, that's another?
Beyond the Hurt. We have some different aspects of Beyond the Hurt. We have a youth-delivered program of Beyond the Hurt, which is bullying and harassment.
Right.
And right now, the most exciting work that we're doing around bullying and harassment involves us going into a high school and training 8 to 10 youth and 2 staff members that will serve as advisors for the trained group. And in 2 days of training, we teach them everything that they need to know about bullying and harassment. At the end of the 2 days, they are able to deliver a workshop to their peers. One of the great, wonderful, neat things that has happened as part of the training is that regardless of where the youth are from, because we have done this in rural communities as well as urban school settings in various areas of the province, and part of what they have to do in day 2 as an independent group is they have to come up with a curriculum of what they think their peers need to know about bullying and harassment. And of all the schools that we have done the training in, amazingly, the youth all come up with the same outline. That really tells us that the youth are speaking with one voice, and they know the issues that are very important that have to get out there to their peers in the other classrooms.
There are so many challenges facing youth today. There's socioeconomic challenges. There's the job issue, career environmental choices, career choices to be made. There's the environmental impacts, a variety of things. And certainly one of the things that's going on in the area is harassment and things like that too.
Yes.
Now, which one of these programs really focus on the harassment issue?
The Beyond the Hurt does,
Okay.
because it really helps the youth understand what the difference is between bullying and harassment. And actually, the only difference is between the ages.
Right.
Something that would be considered a bullying behavior when the youth is age 11 could be considered a criminal harassment once that youth turns the age of 12, because
Yes.
it could be a chargeable offense.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. It's a situation of educating the people, reporting, and overall, this will have an effect on the community. And once you have that effect on the community, what happens next?
Then we look at having change, both from the adults that work with youth and knowing how to support them, as well as from the youth themselves. One of the things that we have found when we do the training as well is the youth are telling us, after we've given this information to them, is that it's like they put on a new pair of glasses, because when they find out all these issues of bullying and harassment and what it looks like and what it sounds like, they walk back out into their school halls. They're able to recognize really what's going on and what they're hearing. And quite often, even after 2 days of training, they are amazed at what they're seeing in their own school environment. Part of what we do to support that is the Beyond the Hurt professional training for adults.
For adults focused.
For adults,
Yes.
and this workshop actually is more geared for adults that work with youth age 12 and over, because we really look at that issue of criminal and non-criminal harassment. It's a little bit different than the issues in primary junior level of grade school. Once again, we look at having them understand the power imbalance, that the bullies have the power, the victim doesn't. We also work with the adults to have them understand the correlation between the bully and the victim and what role the bystander takes. And that's a very important role, bystanders, because inadvertently they are giving power to the bully to continue those behaviors, although most bystanders don't realize that that is what they're doing.
That's right. So support systems and peer effects and all these things.
Definitely,
Yes.
definitely. With bystanders, part of the work that we're doing in education, both through the adult workshop and through the youth training,
Yes.
is having them understand how the bystanders can support the victim instead of support the bully, which creates a safer school environment.
And a positive approach to prevention as well.
Definitely, it sure is.
Yes. And how can someone get involved? Maybe somebody in the community will hear about the program, and maybe they want to make an impact in the community, not only from a crime prevention perspective, but also from somebody who's very involved with their local community and maybe a neighborhood watch program. Maybe they want to supplement it with something like this. How do they get involved?
Well, you can contact our volunteer coordinator at our office downtown on Yonge Street. It's
Okay.
416-480-2500, and speak with the volunteer coordinator, and you can fill out an application, and where it says program interest, you may put Respect Ed.
Okay, and can they go online?
They can go online, redcross.ca, and on the left-hand taskbar is information about Respect Ed, all the various programs we have, and how you can become a prevention educator.
And it's well worth it.
It
well
sure
worth it.
is.
Make an impact on your community. Have a global community, not only the global community, but a local community. Have wellness in the community. It will impact, and it'll be a nicer place for all of us to live. So why not benefit by joining the Red Cross in helping to communicate their Respect Ed, violence and abuse prevention programs. Thank you for joining us today, Deborah.
Thank you, Randy.
Debra Cockerton is the provincial coordinator for the Red Cross and the violence prevention program, Respect Ed. I'm Randy Rowett. We'll see you next time on another edition of Randy's Wellness TV. Bye for now.
I guess it was yourself you were